Once there was a woman. Let's call her Luna. Once there was a woman named Luna. And while everyone agreed she was really good at making people laugh, she was in her 30s. And she lived with her parents, and she washed dishes alongside 16-year-olds. And a lot of those 16-year-olds looked at her like she was kind of a zero. But you can never tell a story by its cover. You see, Luna did not get lost in a forest with a trail of eaten breadcrumbs behind her. But she did get away from a witch and a warlock. That witch and that warlock were her parents. And it was almost like a dream when she was 19 and she began to work in a suitcase factory and she made a friend. And that friend's mother sort of took her in like a second daughter. And that woman was the hen wife. You know, the hen wife, the wise woman who raises chickens, the hen wife. And the hen wife and hen wife's daughter and her husband welcomed Luna into their home. And the hen wife listened to the things Luna had to say and told her she was a good person. And it was such a warm feeling. It was so different from the way things were at home with the witch and the warlock. And the day came when the hen wife knew that she needed to take this 19-year-old into her own home when Luna called from the hospital saying that she'd had to have her appendix out. The witch had not done anything to get her to the hospital quickly. She'd put out a bucket for Luna to puke in while she crawled on the floor in pain. And when they whisked her in for emergency surgery, the doctor told her, if she dies, I'm calling the police on you. And that was when the witch cried. After that phone call, the hen wife took Luna into her own home, gave her her own bedroom. And she had a sister and a kind, loving mother and a father, and there was food. Where she lived with the witch and the warlock, they would eat full platters of homemade meals, and they would take the ends of the loaf of bread that they didn't want and crumble it, and that was her dinner. But at the hen wife's house, there was roast beef, and there was biscuits with gravy and peas on it. And it was wonderful. The hen wife came from another country, a magical country where there were gingerbread and houses and a black forest and stories. So one day, Luna decided she wanted to see the magic country that her mother, that she called now, had come from. So she went to the magic country, and it was every bit as wonderful as she had hoped. And she came into the habit of going into the same beer house to spend time with friends, and she would call the hen wife and tell her how wonderful it was. And while she went there every week to the same place, there was a young man that was noticing Luna. He noticed what she liked to drink. He knew her name. He knew that she had a wonderful way of laughing. And when he finally got up the nerve to approach her and she said, hello, she said, hello, my name is, oh, I know your name. I know what you like to drink. I know everything about you. And Luna's first words to her future husband were, I'm sorry, but are you crazy? And he was crazy for Luna. They would hold hands and he would twist his fingers around her hand like this. And what are you doing? Oh, I'm just holding your hand. That Christmas, he gave her a gold ring that spelled love in the metal. And it was her exact size. He had guessed it just from holding her hand. Soon they were married and she was due to have a baby. And he told her, I hope we have a daughter, because I want you to have the chance to have the relationship with your daughter that you didn't get to have with your biological mother. And it was like a wish came true. They had a baby girl. And she wanted the hen wife to see her baby. So they flew back from the magic country. And when they were coming off of the airplane, the hen wife said, let me see my grandbaby. And she fussed over the baby and she cooed, and Luna was getting a little jealous. And when they came to the henwife's house, she took a drawer out of the dressers and took everything out of it and put out a blanket. And she said, no, 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 don't put the baby in that little car seat. Put her in the dresser drawer so she can stretch. The witch was not happy, and she cursed Luna. But it didn't matter, because Luna and her husband were happy, and she had the henwife, and they went to go see his family. His father had the same name as him, and they were excited that he had met this woman and they had a baby. And so she was staying with his family, and she had a dream one night that he was in a car accident and broke his leg. That didn't matter. They had Thanksgiving, and he went to go and prepare a home for them. And before he came home, there was a phone call. And when they picked up the phone, they said, well, you're mistaken. He's right here. And then they realized that the Bruce they were talking about wasn't the Bruce in the room. It was Bruce Jr. He had been driving in a snowstorm where the snow was so thick you couldn't see your hand out in front of your face. And Luna knew that what had happened in that car accident was so much worse than a broken leg. And she went into the bedroom where her baby girl was sleeping, and she picked her up. And normally babies cry when their mother is upset, but the baby just looked at her mother and patted her cheek like she knew. And the henwife told Luna, come home, be with me, come home. And finally, Luna came home to be with the henwife. And even though Luna had sounded so broken over the phone and broken when she came into their home, it became very clear that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Luna was beginning to fray at the edges. She would sit in a corner and she would rock herself. And they were afraid that if something happened to Luna, the witch would come to claim the baby. So Luna went to a courthouse and she signed a paper saying that her baby girl would forever belong to the care of the henwife. And once Luna knew that her daughter was safe, all of the fears and worries that she had rose up above her like giants, and they swallowed her whole. And that's when Luna got lost in a forest. And it was dark, and the briars scratched deep in her shoulders. And no matter where she went, she couldn't find her way out of the forest because the forest was inside of her. And then one day, a person dressed all in white came and put Luna in a wheelchair and took her down, down, down to the most lowest level of the building that she had been staying in. And then in that room, there was a window, and the window was right about eye level. And through the window, she could see the henwife's feet and her daughter. Her daughter was about 2.5, and she was playing, and she was happy, and she was in the sunlight. She was so close, Luna could touch her. But there was a window and a forest in the way. And that's when Luna knew she had to get better. She had to find her way out of that forest because it was her husband's wish that she would have a relationship with their daughter. And she couldn't let the henwife raise her baby alone. And then with new determination, she began trying to seek ways out of that forest. But every way she went, it looped, spiderwebbing herself back around to the center, and she couldn't find her way. And then one night, in the center of the forest, there was a mirror pool, and it glowed like a memory. And she got down on her knees and she looked into that mirror pool, and she could see the witch. The witch was laying out on a hospital gurney. She was very sick. They had found a cancer the size of a cantaloupe right in her chest. And she had fallen into a coma. And she saw herself walk on with her wedding band on, lean over to the witch and say, "I forgive you." A tear rolled back out of the witch's eye, and the mirror pool began to glow with the same kind of radiance that rain has bouncing off of a tin roof. And she gathered up that light and that glow, and she gathered it into her chest. Like a spell had been broken. The next morning, the people in white came and said, "We have found one more option to help you get out of the woods, but it's very dangerous. Other people have tried this and it has burned them. You have to ride lightning out of the woods." And Luna was brave, and she said yes. And they tried one time, and it didn't work. And Luna said, "Do it again." And they tried a second time, and it failed. And the third time, she took that lightning and she wrapped it around her arms, and third time she pulled herself through, and then it was like the canopy of the forest opened, and there was the world. And she was in the sunlight, and there was her daughter, and there was the hen wife, and she was home. So Luna was in her 30s, and she washed dishes for a living, and she lived with her parents. But she had escaped a witch and a warlock. She had danced around with death. She had gone through the deep, dark forest and rode lightning out to the other side. And that is why, no matter what dark forest may yet come, Luna, my mother, will always be a perfect 10 to me. Thank you.